Yes.
Okay. Should we start?
Yeah, Joe, Naomi asked that you log off and log back on.
Give it another second here, folks.
Yeah, he
Just
should.
just another second.
Okay, he can hear us.
All right, are we ready to go, folks?
We can't hear you, Joe, but you can hear us. Okay, it's probably your microphone setting. Make sure it's not same as system or that, but
Well, I think we're gonna have to get started here.
Okay,
What say you? Should we go ahead? Israel, think we're ready to go?
sure.
Okay. All right. Good evening. This is a special meeting. Uh-oh. Are we still here? We're still here. Okay. Welcome, everyone. This is a special virtual meeting of the Kent School District Board, which is held in public to comply with the Open Public Meeting Act. Tonight's meeting is a joint meeting with the South King County Discipline Coalition and the Office of Education Ombuds. I'd first like to invite, and I hope Director Fair is still on and can hear us, to read the land acknowledgement. Director Farah, have we lost you?
I'm still here. Give me a second.
Okay, thank you.
We acknowledge we are gathered upon ancestral lands of the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, who historically lived throughout the area between the Cascade Mountains and Puget Sound.
Thank you, Director Farah. Just want to welcome everybody on live stream and those attending the meeting. Just one note, we have been having some sound difficulties tonight, so everybody's aware of that. I'm hoping we've got most of them clarified, but we are going to go on because we have a short evening tonight and we want to get everything in that we possibly can. I'm going to begin with introductions. We're going to do this kind of like name, role, organization, and if you have a mood or color, what color would it be today? And of course, I am Leslie Hamada. I am the president presently of the Kent School Board. And if I had a mood today, it would be orange because I'm on fire today with lots of decisions I've had to make about my house. And so I'm just kind of going in every direction, happy, sad, everything today. And we'll go on to, let's go to Vice President Meno.
Can you all hear me now? Oh my gosh.
Oh
yes.
my God.
Yes.
Good job.
Excellent. Hi, Joe Benno, he, him pronouns. I'm a vice president of Kent School Board. If I were a color, it would be red right now because I was having tech issues. But mostly I'm a cool blue. So, but otherwise I'm good.
All right, let's see. I'm going to go down my viewing, and that's our superintendent.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Hamada. Israel Vela, Superintendent, Kent School District. My color is, I'm not sure what color it is, but my rhododendron is so bright and kind of orange red right now, right outside my house. And it's so cool because it's fully blossomed. And so it's making me feel great. I just know that it's not going to last long.
All right, next I've got Mr. Brockville.
Well, as always, my colors are purple and gold. So it's a tie. And that's just because that's what I think of when my little gold dog is here, and he's a little husky. So it all works together.
Director Farah.
Hi, my name is Awali Farah. I am School Board Director, Kent School District. My color, wow, that is a very good question. I would just say light blue, KSD colors.
And next up, your Donis. Did I get it right?
You did. I'm your Danos Gabramluk. I am currently the interim director in the Office of the Education Ombuds. Color. I'm not really feeling a color, so we'll go with mood. And I don't know if this qualifies as a mood, but I'm a little numb right now.
All right, on to next up, I've got Director Bettinger.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bettinger, she, her pronouns. I'm a board director here in Kent. And today my colors are green and gold because I'm going to go to the final jazz night at Kent Ridge tonight. So my son's graduating. It's one of his last choir concerts. So green and gold.
On to Director Clark.
Hi, I'm Tim Clark, Board of Directors for Kent, and I was just down at Carpenito Brothers, so my color is green.
Mr. Randy Heath, next up.
Great, thank you. Randy Heath, the interim chief of school operations and academic support. And since it's May, and May is always a crazy time, I go through and cycle through every color, I think, of the day, depending on what's going on, because it's always just the craziness of the day. So happy to be here.
And looks like next up on my screen is Simone Hamilton.
Everybody, my name is Simone Hamilton. I'm the Director of Equity and Strategic Engagement, and my color today, normally it's purple and gold like Paul, go Huskies. But I'm really into like a chartreuse green lately. Ooh. Really like, and very specifically the chartreuse green.
Next up is our executive assistant, Ms. Santello.
Thank you, President Hamada. I am happy to be invited for this portion of the agenda. It's unexpected, so I appreciate this. I am the executive assistant to the board, as President Hamada said, and I would say that today my color is pink. Because I have a lot of things for my daughter on my mind, as she has many things coming up, competitions, graduation, and that's her favorite color. So I'm going to say pink, and it's also a happy color.
And next up, I have Miss Sharice Rhodes.
That's funny. Similar, Sharice Rhodes, I am one of the coordinators with South King County Discipline Coalition, and my color is also pink. And also because of my daughter, who's on the spectrum, and when she commits to something, oh boy, does she commit. So if you would have asked me like a month ago my color, it'd have been cow print. So I'm appreciative that it's no longer cow print, but it is now pink. And I mean, like, she now has informed me she wants an all pink closet, meaning all of her wardrobe to be pink. Yeah.
That's cool.
It is a happy color. It is a happy color.
It is. That's wonderful. Next up is Miss Portia Phelps.
Hi, thank you. My name is Portia Phelps. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the community engagement manager for Team Child. And my color today is yellow because the sun is out shining and I just love the sun regardless of how warm or cold it is, as long as it's out.
Cool. And I think I've gone through everybody but admin. Is that Emilio? Are you on, or is that somebody I need to identify?
Good evening. This is Casey High filling in for Emilio tonight. I am the web administrator with Kent School District.
And your color is?
My color today would probably be teal. It's just the color of my son's hockey team. And he was just in here talking to me about it. So that's what I'm thinking about right now.
Cool. And looks like we have a very colorful selection of different colors here. So that's terrific. We've gone through our opening and call to order. We're on to 2.0 discussion and 2.01. I'm going to call on our interim superintendent, and really now our superintendent, to begin his presentation. Mr. Velo.
Thank you, President Hamada. Great to hear all the colors that are out there, especially on a beautiful day. I want to, first of all, welcome everybody. And just as a follow-up to our last time that we were together, my team's prepared some information and follow-up to some of the questions that came up. And so today I have with me Mr. Randy Heath, who's going to share with us a few of the district updates and some of the impacts. So Mr. Heath, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Vela. Honored to be here as always. Get to talk about some things that are important to me personally and to the district. Social emotional learning, as anyone who has heard me and I've been presenting for years, is a passion of mine and a priority of the district. We know that in order for our students to be successful, then we need to understand what supports are needed and deliver those supports in a systemic way. And so we do that through our multi-tiered systems of support. We do that through tier 1 supports that we offer to all students, and then some specialized supports in terms of tier 2 and tier 3 in addition to those tier 1 supports. One of the things I really want to highlight is that over the last few years is we've really been working on trying to build up our community partnerships in terms of helping to provide those social emotional supports, both into working with our students, but also working with our families, and see these groups are deeply rooted in our community. They know our families, they know our students, and they are uniquely poised to help us support their needs. And so just some examples of some partnerships that we are currently engaged in and will continue with in the following years around our mental health supports, Valley City's behavioral health, Kent Youth and Family Services, Asian counseling services. We've dabbled into the telehealth in terms of Hazel Health this year. We've been piloting that. We are looking at mentoring and support through case management with organizations such as Communities in Schools, Central Rendu, Communities Rooted in Brilliance. Living Well Kent is one that we have really ramped up our partnership with this year. World Relief, our Community Network Council, who's been doing some great work for years in the community, YMCA, the Iraqi Community Center. The point I'm trying to make is that we have really reached out and tried to build up these partnerships in support. And we feel like they provide us a perspective that maybe we haven't had always. And so we've really been working hard to do that. In addition to just, the services that our own school counselors and support staff do in the schools, we are currently working on a comprehensive school counseling and guidance model that will try to ensure that our staff that are specially trained, our school counselors are spending the vast majority of their time in direct and indirect service of students. And so trying to take some of the more administration duties away and make sure that we're really guarding that time so that the staff that have the expertise are working with our students, trying to help provide those supports. And so those are kind of the roots of our social emotional. We continue to try to build up partnerships when we become aware of them. And we just have made this a priority, especially coming out of the pandemic. As this has really been a focus of our school staff. Then I also wanted to talk a little bit about an updates on our reporting system and our training, which is part of the new laws regarding school resource officers and our safety officers. As we've talked about in previous discussions, our school resource officers, there's a new law that is governing this work. And one of those is around keeping data around the interactions that our school resource officers and our safety officers have with students in relationship to school discipline. And so we have been keeping that data all year long. And based on the language in the law, we have yet to be given the exact criteria from OSPI. OSPI has been working on this the whole year, trying to figure out what is the reporting mechanism, what exactly are we going to have to report. They haven't given us clear guidelines on that. We've been in connection with Mike Donlin in the safety center at OSPI. And our understanding is that very soon we'll be hearing what exactly it is, what we will be reporting to the state, and that we will be reporting out to our public. But we are keeping the data and we're looking at it on a regular basis, and we will be ready to share when we understand exactly what it is that we are required to share. And then the last piece is around that training also. As you remember, we've talked about this, that there are 12 components of training that all safety officers and school resource officers need to receive as part of their job. When we saw the list, we were actually very pleased because most of that training was a part of what we have always been doing in Kent for the last, I would say, 5 to at least the last 8 years that I've been here. This has been most of these have been a component in some way of the training that we've already been giving to our officers. So the Puget Sound ESD, all ESDs in the state of Washington, has been tasked with helping districts understand the components of the training that is needed and that we are in compliance. Our Assistant Director of Safety Services, Tim Kovich, has been in communication and has been working with the staff over at Puget Sound ESD to make sure that we're providing the documentation that our officers have received this training and that we are in compliance with the law. And so at this point, we do believe we are, and we are using the 12 components of the law as we are planning this next year's safety services training plan. Every year we have a training plan for our officers. And so, we're going to align the training exactly with the training areas that Washington state law has indicated that we must be doing. So, we don't find that a burden because it's the training we were always wanting to provide our officers anyway. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Heath.
Yeah.
President Hamada, I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh, wait, did you want us to talk about the listening sessions at this point, or was that later? Sorry.
No, you could go ahead and share now, and then also, yeah.
Okay. The last piece of that was that we are in the process right now of collecting authentic student voice around school safety. That we have entered into a partnership with our Office of Equity and Student Services, and we've designed a process to collect the student voice that we feel we're very excited about, actually, and we're using it with school safety, but we really feel like this can be a model that we can replicate and use over and over again. This spring, we have embarked at all 4 of our comprehensive high schools in this process, where we bring a design team together of students, and they design the listening sessions that they want at their school. And so they have 2 of our high schools have already engaged in this process and had their listening session, Kent Lake and Kent Meridian, these last 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, we have our other 2 comprehensive high schools set to do their listening sessions. And it's all going to culminate on June 15th when we come together to have a conversation with the school board. And the students are invited, the design teams from each of the high schools are invited to come and share the findings from each of their schools with the school board. And then there will be a process we'll go through where other public members can share as well. So we're excited for you to hear from our students around school safety.
Thank you, Mr. Heath, and thank you. On a side note, Simone Hamilton, our Director of Equity and Strategic Engagement, for your collaboration with the team. So I'll go ahead and now turn it over to President Hamada.
Yeah, and this is kind of what we thought was kind of a wrap up of our year that we've been together. And we've got under 2.02, kind of a collective learning. And I thought it'd be a good idea for 1 or 2 minutes that each of us could answer the question, which you should see on your screen, is what is something that you've learned from our time together over the past year? And I can't see the entire screen, so I'm just gonna, go for it. Whoever wants to go first, and just kind of jump in as it becomes available. So hopefully somebody wants to go first. And I guess I could actually begin just so you can give a moment to get your thoughts together. Is I think it's always valuable to me to hear from every segment of our community. One of the things that has been always important to me is to, whatever work I've done, I've usually tried to go to the people who need it, or the kids, or whoever could use, could help. I could help in some way, or get them connected to what could be more helpful for their learning. I'm very well aware of living with my husband, who has been my husband for many years, and his story of being born in an internment camp, going to schools in America, having very difficult times in school because he couldn't speak English, being made fun of, being all the things that he's gone through. We've talked about that over the years, and it's kind of really left an impression on my mind of the racism that he faced. So that's kind of been incorporated into a lot of the things that I've tried to go out and see if there's something I could do to help. And I found these sessions here particularly helpful because you shared your heart, your experiences. Even we've had a couple of students on here who bravely stepped forward and shared their ideas. And the only way we learn and get better at what we do is by listening to each other, by caring about each other. And if we can find improvements together, doing that. And no, I mean, nobody is going to have all this stuff down perfectly. I mean, somebody can get up and promise you the moon, and it's all great, but a lot of things take a lot of work at it. And I really think, and I hope that from these lessons and what you shared with us, not only will we take away from that, and we have, you can see by some of the things we put in place, but that we can continue this relationship by you integrating into our community, into our strategic plan. Come up and join our strategic plan, join our equity group, join all the committees out here and bring forth your ideas and your community to come to the table, because we need you. We need you. We need everybody in this to make everybody come forward. It takes longer to bring everybody to the table, but your product is going to be so much better. And I'll be quiet. That's enough of my talking. So whoever would like to go next.
I can go. I can go next. I think this is my second meeting since I joined the board, and it's really good to hear from a community that I feel that they have a lot to add, and demographics in terms of demographics, and I want to make sure that we hear that, and this kind of forum helps us to hear from each other. And also, I want to thank President Hamada for her leadership and making sure that she brings this kind of meetings. And I want to also, what I want to hear is, these are the things that we want to achieve every meeting that we come. And I haven't been part of the previous meetings, and I like to make our future meetings more productive by having a checklist, and to make sure that that we're knocking these things out, because I know that we, every entity has things that they can improve upon, and if you can bring that to our attention, would really make our job easier. That's what I wanted to share, and that's what I learned. Thank you.
I can go next. This is also my second meeting, and the fact is the need for success in school is based on, number one, safety, whether kids feel safe, but their need to feel that they are a part of what is going on. And it's difficult, the isolation that we saw from COVID, and then coming back in hasn't gone as smoothly as we liked, which simply tells us that, and I wholeheartedly support what administration is trying to do in terms of support for social and emotional learning, because we've got to make it an awareness that we know that students can only learn when they feel that they are a part of what's going on. And to make that connection, we have to build relationships. And I find this discussion an awareness level for us that we have to keep in our front. Thanks.
I need somebody to jump in. Just take a dive.
I was just giving space in case people were waiting. I want to acknowledge something Jordana said at the beginning, that she was feeling numb. And I just want to say that I heard that. And I have my notebook and I have the list. There is a checklist, Director Farah, that the South King County Discipline Coalition gave to us on March 4th, 2021. And my notebook is open to it right now. And some of the suggestions I look at them a lot. And, it's like, one of the things on the checklist is, what is the plan to ensure this work impacts students? What is the real change management strategy? And another was the South King County Discipline Coalition wanted to know how to have greater impact on policy change and what policies are up for review. And so we've had several policies that can impact. And my dogs are probably going to bark in just a second, so forgive me. And then parents from the South King County Discipline Coalition wanted teachers engaged in this relationship. And we haven't done that. And they wanted more comprehensive support. And I think we are doing some of that. But Kingmakers is especially targeted for Black males. And I don't know if we've done anything to expand out yet for girls. And that was one of the requests. And then there was no response. There was a story that was shared way early on about unwanted touching. And I don't know if that was ever addressed. And so, and then also they wanted the accountability on next steps. They wanted, there was frustrations about no real action steps that could be followed by the members of the South King County Discipline Coalition, and just concerns that this would just be performative. And so I look at that and it's frustrating to me, and it's been frustrating to me for a long time. And I think I've said this every meeting I've been able to attend. I think there's only one meeting I haven't been able to attend. So I just feel like we have a lot more work. My learning, my takeaways, we have a lot more work to do. And I feel like we have a framework, we have a checklist that was given to us on March 4th. This isn't the first time I've brought this checklist up, and maybe we could share it with the newer board directors. So anyway, that's all I have to say. That's what I've learned.
Can I mic check? Can y'all hear me? Okay, perfect. I was looking at my notes too, to kind of see what we've kind of talked about, and just kind of seeing, like, I like the things that I saw from Mr. Heath about cell and reporting systems and communication and safety. But I too looked at some of these other things, like, well, I think that's great work. I love to see that. And so I look forward to seeing like how that cell strategies, MTSS strategies are working, and how the reporting system is going to look, and also what the communications and safety looks like. I also was noticing in my notes, and this was from March 30th of 2021, there's other things that were brought up, and I was like, oh, what are we doing to kind of address that? Like, I remember I quoted, someone said, and I quoted it, the discipline matrix is kind of garbage. And I was like, oh, like I was like, okay, yeah, it is. And so I'm kind of wondering where that would go in our updates, and like, because part of the problem is how we discipline, right? And so, and training staff and students about discipline. So I love to see that we're doing some self stuff and reporting stuff. I would love to see us do more with discipline matrix and some other stuff. And also kind of thinking about like the coaching model for educators and for administrators and what that looks like from the district level. Because I also have in my notes that the coaching model isn't good for things like discipline. It might need to be altered and fixed. And so looking at how we do that and wraparound services. And I know that's the stuff that Mr. Heath mentioned is a portion of that. I keep hearing things like community schools and wraparound services to support students. And so I would love to see more of that. So for me, like that's my first notes, like as a new board member back in March of last year, talking about this. And every meeting we've had, I've heard stories, and I love to hear the stories, and I think that's important. And I also learned that the people on this call are really passionate about supporting students. And I think that's amazing. And I think that we all have that common interest of supporting students. And I would like us to kind of see what we can do to kind of address some of these other things. Like I have some other things about what training and curriculum looks like specifically for CEL. And also looking at, I mean, I'm always going to talk about wraparound services and mental health services. And I know that Mr. Heath talked about a lot of the mental health services, which is great. But I would like to see how that goes further. So to me, I learned a lot about like the hearing from the community and looking at some of the things that the district has done specifically, and also agreeing with Director Bettinger, like we have a long way to go on the other things. But I'm glad to hear that these conversations have kind of, I don't want to say forced, but it's made some changes happen. I like seeing big changes, so I want to see like what we can do to push further. I feel like in education, sometimes it's such tiny steps to get anything done, and sometimes I'm like, well, let's get rid of it and do something better, like on our own. But I know that's dreams, but I like it. So yeah, that's what I learned. So thank you everyone and who has participated in these, and I like to see this work. So I want to see it continue. Thank you.
I'll go next because some of what I'm thinking aligns with what was just shared by Dr. Beno, but I also just, Director, excuse me. But I also just wanted to thank Director Bettinger for your comments earlier. For the record, my numbness comes from the events over the weekend. I'm sure most of you heard about the racist attack in Buffalo. And so I don't grieve just for the people in Buffalo, but for all BIPOC communities who are impacted every time. Oftentimes, there is a focus on that specific event, but it's exactly these events that impact and contribute to ongoing daily trauma. White supremacist acts like these. So thank you, Director Bettinger, for your comments. What I've learned, I think more than anything is that there are definitely folks who are committed, and it makes my mind think about what are ways that we can support this learning spreading, right? How do we make sure that what we discuss here, the stories that have been shared here, and the ways that those stories should really be impacting how we engage with one another? What are ways that we can support one another in ensuring that that happens? So that's just some of the things that I'm thinking about. You know, what are ways we can partner in the future? And I take you up on that, President Hamada, for how we do this moving forward, even if it doesn't look like this, thinking about critical ways that we do that together moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Yardanos, for saying that. So I guess I'm gonna come in as a parent. Everything I do is on behalf of community and youth, right? Because of the fact that I want to now be that adult that I wish I had when I was younger. And that adult that I wish when my son was going through some of the things he went through, he also had some of that support. I was at a conference over the weekend and I got the amazing opportunity to bring my children with me to DC. I say amazing because of the fact that this work is intergenerational, right? During that time, I stopped and paused, and everyone was like, oh, the National African American Museum. If you're in DC, it is something to do. It truly is an experience, and it is. However, the hard thing for me was taking that journey with my 12-year-old and her being able to make correlations to current events on how people like her are treated. I say that with the Jim Crow and how with a bat in an eye, people can take our lives and like we're just disposable or and I'm gonna say as a parent that was hard, right? To think that we should be so removed from that thinking, but she's able to see and process how it's still going on to this day. I'm gonna say though, I love some of the things that you guys are working on. However, with the one thing that you didn't want to address, it was really hard for me because one of those young ladies were my daughter, right? Who, like I said before, is on the spectrum. Who, again, more correlations to things that are happening now with how women are treated, right? Like, and subjectified. And I don't think that you guys truly understand that the foundation that you guys help us set for our kids kind of dictates the person they're going to be tomorrow, right? So much to, like, I loved Kent. But it was starting to become too much. I don't think you guys realized, or I didn't even realize that the stomach aches that my daughter had and the issues she was going through, when I thought it was bad food, it was anxiety. So every day my daughter would go to get on that bus, like she would be physically ill. She doesn't have that no more. And that's all due to the interactions or the lack of their interactions or compassions that came from adults. I really hope you guys' listening session is a success. However, you have to go beyond re-traumatizing community to get us to share our stories and then do nothing. Because I'm gonna be real, it's a slap in the face. And that's why we had so many parents in the beginning and we kind of lost them, because it's like they felt like this space was the same. Well, okay, I'm gonna, share my frustration and share those stories and nothing's gonna happen. Yeah, and like, I don't want to ick on any I love that you guys are moving work. However, but if the community cannot see themselves in any of this work, and if you're really not centering who this work is truly for, and that's those youth, it's another slap in the face, right? Because this ain't about me. And I know it's not about you, Leslie, and I know it's not about you, Randy, right? It's about those kids. And if we're not allowing them more than seats at the table where you're not extracting and taking that wisdom, you're still causing harm. Yeah, I really do wish this school district the best, but like, I don't know. Like, I've allowed, or because of where I lived, not for you guys to have a bad impact on one of my babies, but both. And that's hard. I don't know. Like, it's hard. So if I'm quiet tonight, it's because I'm processing a lot. I hear you, but I really hope that you can really hear and see those kids, because academics are great, right? They're great. But you know, broken hearts, that's heavy, right? And like someone has said, it's you know, it's hard to fix a broken adult that was harmed when they were a kid. So like, we have to really think about that. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, because there's times that I need to still step back, still, you know, think and make sure that I'm doing the right thing. But I don't know, we have to just move beyond talking, because a lot of this data y'all already know.
Okay, I think I'll go. So I came into this process about midway through this year. I used to work at Bellevue School District. And as this process was relating to SROs, very similar to a process I led in a review or co-led in Bellevue around their SRO program, where to go from that, and how we improve it, and especially around student voice. And some things that were brought up today around, you know, checklists, and I think about that as it connects to my work. And to me, framing things as a checklist or these things that have to get done is in a way chequity, which is fakequity. A lot of the parts of the system are interlinked and interwoven together. There is nothing that can be done in a checklist format, because that insinuates that the work is linear, and it's not. It's adaptive. It's incredibly fluid. There's no class of students that are exactly the same. So what the needs of students for the class of 2022 is going to look very different than what the needs of the class of 2023, 2030, and so on and so forth. And the best way we can meet those needs is, like it's been echoed on this call, is to spend time and space with students, to build that relationship with them, to know that there is two-way engagement, that we hear you, we care for you, and this is how we want to work with you. And so the really powerful thing that I think that was reiterated through the experience of these meetings, and has led to the work that Randy mentioned that my team has been doing in partnership with his team, is we've done just that. We have conducted a survey asking everything around safety, to curriculum, to relationships with their peers, to relationships with their adults. After we examined that data, we immediately turned those suggestions and the work of those students on that survey into actions. One of those being the student design groups. The 2 listening sessions that we've had thus far, a lot of the concerns around safety that have been on this call, I have learned, are actually not first and foremost priorities for students. They are aware of them, but what the needs of students last spring has evolved from what they need this spring. And that's why it's been reinforced too, the need to have these continuous cycles of inquiry with students, so that we can adaptively develop solutions that can meet the needs as they're evolving with students. Systemic work is hard. It's also cyclical. The nature of a school district is cyclical. And so we have to continually have a mindset of continuous states of improvement. We're never going to get it right. We will never arrive at a place where every single policy, every single framework, matrix, practice is perfect, because we're incredibly imperfect human beings. But one of the beauties of being in community is being able to hold each other in love and accountability. And that's our goal with students, is to be able to build that community so we can hold each other in the love and accountability. And I got to tell you, the information that these students are sharing and how they're sharing it, your point, Cherise, so that it's not re-traumatizing people. It's not asking them to come and put their heart on the plate, but they're having discussions around, this is what we see as a challenge or a problem in our school, all the way from hallway safety, classroom safety, parking lot safety. And these are the ideas we have to fix it. And then our process then is to work with them in partnership about what do they need to do that. One of the philosophies that I've learned has been reinforced by some of the stuff brought up in this that we are using in the Office of Equity is, how do we listen to students, to learn from students, to lead with them? And that's what we've been doing this last spring and a lot of the work since I joined, which I know wasn't that long ago, but that is the center, especially in the Office of Equity, of our goals. And again, back to my original point around this work and what I've learned from this is that it is cyclical. It's continuous cycles of improvement. If we frame it as a checklist, if we frame it as these things, if they just happened in a sequence, or if they happen like this, it would somehow fix problems, we would be kind of misleading, almost like gaslighting ourselves, that that's how work happens. There's been a lot of really incredible stuff that will continue to unveil itself. And some of those big changes, Director Benno, that you referenced, these big things you want to see, those are happening. And what I think too, from a continuous cycle improvement space, is that you have to start things on the small scale before you scale them district wide, because our school communities are so unique that what may work at one high school like Kent Meridian, a very different experience at Kent Ridge. And so sometimes in order to have that large systemic impact, we have to be intentional about the types of strategies, interventions, ways of engaging and teaching our curriculum in a scalable way, almost running these experiments to make sure that we are making data-driven decisions, which is a lot of MTSS work. So I know I spoke a little bit, probably more than 1 to 2 minutes, but my goal with that is to say that this work is ongoing. It's a journey we never arrive on. It's a journey where we have to constantly be in community with each other in service of a shared vision and a shared goal. And I think one of the things that's been a concurrent and common theme in this is student voice, making sure our students at the margins and in all part are included in the conversation. And I think one of the biggest reflections on learning as I've had is that part of being able to hold that space for students is we as adults know how to show up in that space. And I look back on some of the conversations we've had here in the space that's been created. It's not a safe space for students. And I think we all as adults in this call have had a role and a responsibility in creating that space. And so I am excited on June 15th for the community to come together and to hear from students about what they've done, the changes they're going to make, and the way they're getting supported by adults to do so. And I think another thing I've learned is that there's so many different ways that we can gather and be in community. And that's what students have done from each high school, the way they've designed their gatherings, the way they've set up how they're going to lead those gatherings is so unique to them and something they feel confident and authentic in doing. And like Randy said, that model, we hope to expand as we really dive deep in some of these challenges in areas that we will continuously be improving in.
Well, I hate to go right after Simone because she says she is like, I'm amazed every time I hear conversations, and it's been a great, privilege for our student services team to be working in conjunction with the Office of Equity team really on these student listening sessions. It's something that I'd really been wanting to do for a long time. And when we came together to collaborate, it all just started coming together in a way that we thought was, really special and that we could get some great things out of. And so far, that's kind of what we've heard so far. And so pleased about that. I also want to reflect back I've now been in the district. This is my 8th year. It goes so quickly. You can't believe it. You blink and that happens. And so, but This year, I think the other piece is we really need to celebrate that for the first time, since the time I've been here, our employees have all received the common equity training that has been an ongoing training throughout the year. And just in the groups that I've been in around this training, it's been one that, I know that the conversations have been rich. The conversations that I've been involved in around things like student discipline, employee issues, and just a variety of different pieces, things that I can't share publicly necessarily because it involves specific students and such, is there's a greater instance of adults asking the tough questions of other adults within the system and challenging things and not letting just comments, well, I don't think that's what they intended, or I don't, that let's give them the benefit of the doubt. When you know more, it's hard to ignore certain things. And so the stories that we hear, the very personal stories that we've heard through this process has helped part of that, but also our trainings and being able to have conversations with each other have given people the confidence to not, I don't want to say call out their employee, but call in around a deeper conversation about something. It's like, let's just not leave it at that. Let's not, let's dive into that deeper. Let's really explore what was behind those comments, what was behind the actions that were taken. And I think if I've been involved in those conversations, and I've heard other people also share that they've been involved in those types of conversations, what I believe is these types of conversations are happening all over our district right now. And that's how you end up starting to really make significant changes within a system, when people aren't afraid to engage in the conversations that have to happen. I think some of us grew up in a time where it was like, well, you don't talk about certain things with other people because that's not, but that's just led to all the issues that we continue to have today. We have to have these conversations in a meaningful way. And I feel like that's, these sessions have been a part of us getting to the spot where we can have these conversations.
Well, and I just kind of want to jump in here too, and I don't want to take up any more time because we haven't heard from everybody, but I spent a lot of time at Neely O'Brien. And in the last couple of years, the changes that I have seen in that school have been amazing. Watching the students, watching the behaviors change in that school, watching the inclusion. One of the biggest fun days I saw is when we were back to school and we had a big sponsor giving out backpacks and stuff and making sure every child felt that they were really important to be there on their first day of school. The smiles on those kids' faces. When I've gone back into the classroom with changing our boundaries around, giving the kids more space and more time, there's been a major change in 2 years in that school. And about 3 or 4 months ago, I was on with the PTA, which, a lot of our marginalized communities haven't really felt welcome at our PTAs, which is a shame. But the makeup of that PTA and the things that they were doing differently was totally different than the models I've seen with PTAs. And I saw representation from the BPOC community. And again, out at Covington Elementary, they had with their 6th grade boys, they're having some really serious problems out there. And the assistant principal has set up some nice leadership things that he's working with groups of kids out there, boys, and they've turned that around. I mean, I have personally seen in examples, one-on-one with kids, that things are changing. Maybe not everywhere's, but all of these conversations have not been in vain. We have been listening. We have miles to go, but we are listening. We need your help. We need you to be at the table. You need to feel welcome at the table, and you need to be heard. So, does anybody else have something they want to share on that portion of, talking about what is something that you've learned? And if nobody else feels comfortable, I can understand that too. But I'm going to give it a few seconds to make sure everybody's been heard.
President Hamada, I'd like to go ahead and share if I can. Thank you for the opportunity. What is something that I have learned? I haven't said anything this whole evening because I'm modeling what I've learned, and that is to listen. I have listened intently, not just tonight, but throughout the evenings we've had together. I've had the opportunity to listen to the system, and I say that because the system is wider than just our schools. It's every portion of our community, and we need to listen to our community, which feeds our system and keeps us going together as a family. And so, in short, that is one. Secondly, what I've learned that we could have difficult or uncomfortable conversations about what is happening to me or my family. So I've learned that, and it's not lost on me the awesome responsibility that now I have the opportunity to be the superintendent of Kent School District. And so I don't take that lightly. And then lastly, I wanted to share what I've learned is the great passion and the commitment of not only the people here on this call, because it's been the same people on this call, and that tells me we are committed to seeing a better future for our kids and our families and our community. And so those are three areas, President Hamada, I wanted to share. And I also wanted to say that I'm committed to our school district and our students. Thank you.
I'm just going to take a quick second to speak. And rather than it being more about like what I've learned, just my experience as wearing two hats, well, three. One as a mom who I'm not a mom in the Kent School District. I'm a mom of the Highline School District. But I am an advocate for students and youth everywhere, as well as working with the coalition and working with Team Child as an advocate through Team Child. And holding listening sessions and participating in these conversations over the last 18 or so months, because this has been this school year, but if we dial back a little bit further to where we had began the conversations with the Kent School District and where we are at now. And this time last year, this Kent School District had made a commitment to us to hold these sessions and to have these follow-up conversations to let us know, like for the parents and the families to be able to voice their concerns and where they've been at through the school year. And then the district was to come back and express and say what their responses are and what are some current changes or things that they're going to do to address those issues and kind of keeping that circle going. So it kind of speaks to what I believe Naomi was speaking about, and that is that it's fluent, and we have to look at these systems as fluent. Transition and changes are fluent. When you see that something's not working, you got to reevaluate and make the changes where necessary. And like she said, it's different from class to class. It's different from school to school. It's different from district to district. And I say all of that because the one thing that I can appreciate is Kent School District's desire to continue to show up. We have had tough conversations with Kent School District. We have, as parents and advocates, have laid our hearts out, and our youth have laid their hearts out in sharing their experiences. And if at this point your takeaway is we're going to continue these conversations with our students, and we're shifting some of the approach in which we're having those conversations to be geared towards, here's the situation, here's the issues we're having, here's some possible solutions. how do you see us getting them how do you see us getting it done? What do you need to accomplish this? So I'm excited that you guys are looking into and beginning that process and listening to the youth voice and centering the youth voice as you're dealing with policies. I'm excited to see those things come to fruition. My hesitation is, as that work continues, continue with the same spirit of really taking the information that you're gathering and genuinely making those changes. Even with the idea that Director Heath mentioned about, well, we don't know what data we're quote unquote by law required to share. And, you know, outside of, to me, if we're looking at data collection and what is, you know, those encounters that are happening with SROs and whatnot, the only data to me that's not shareable is the youth's name. Outside of, you know, any demographic information that's an identifier to that youth, but being able to collect and synthesize how many interactions is a particular SRO having around certain issues. Where does that development need to be made? Like some of those things, as where the data can come up and help guide where the training is needed or where the training may be falling short. So that to me is like that idea that we're governed and we're allowing the law to wholeheartedly make our decisions for us, rather than looking at what can I do and share that's not going to violate someone's right or personal acknowledgements. Like we find ourselves constantly hiding behind the law, and that is discouraging. But when Naomi came on the line and was sharing like the vision and goals that you guys have as an equity group in addressing the issues and how you're going to be interacting with the youth and centering that voice, that's hopeful. If at the end of the day, if that's the only thing that you take away is we have an equity group now that we're really going to be working with in partnership with to address the concerns that the students have. If at the end of the day, that's where you guys land with this, that is great. But I challenge you to not just stop there. Don't just stop there. Don't stop at, well, we have this entity within the district that's going to handle that, because that's not that entity's entire job. It's the entire district's job to address these things and to make these changes. So that would just be my encouragement. I appreciate the district and the board continuing to have these meetings with us, because like I said, we've been doing this for 18 months. And to be very 100% transparent, y'all the last man standing as far as the districts that are continuing to hold themselves accountable, even if at times it just feels like a bunch of bobbleheads in the room. So I appreciate that once again, it's you guys are continuing to come to this table and now you're taking it to the next step.
Okay, we're kind of really going over here on time. I'm wondering if we can kind of close with a word instead of talking for 1 or 2 minutes, because that turns into a lot longer conversation, which I do enjoy. But we have another meeting on board tonight, so we do have time limitations here. So if we could use a word of gratitude or appreciation, and I'm going to start with that. And my word is going to be thankful for your time. Let's just quickly jump in here now.
Humbled.
Hopeful for the future.
Aware.
Ready for the work.
gonna have to use 2, grateful and feeling strengthened.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to use 2. I would say pathway, 3, pathway to liberation.
Hopeful. Joe, we couldn't hear you. Sorry.
We have silenced Joe.
All right, can we hear me now?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Mine was action-oriented next steps.
Okay, if I missed anybody, jump in. Don't want to leave anybody out. Well, I just want to end this meeting because we do have another meeting scheduled on the time frame tonight. I want to thank every one of you for your participation. Believe me, we have heard you. We have seen you. Our resolutions we've made on Black Lives Matter from a board perspective, our Equity Commission, having our youth speak up, and please come to that meeting and that board meeting. And also, be in tune with our board meetings. You're invited to every work session or every board meeting, and you can have public testimony at any of those, either online if you can't come, or you can do it in person. And we're stronger, like I say, when we have all voices at the table, and we're always open to listen. And if there's one thing I've seen about this board is when we're 5 votes, that's all of us. It's about equity. It's about equity. And that's very, very encouraging because we're going through some tough times. We've had some people come up for public testimonies, really not very happy about some of the things we're teaching towards CRT and all this. And we stood firm. We have stood firm. And that's extremely important for our future and to me, for our nation. So I'd like to thank all of you for your time. And it's now right at 6:44. And I'm going to call this meeting to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.